A new study looks at the first wave of baby boomers to retire and how they feel about it. Everything from did they feel in control of their retirement to what factors play into a successful start into retirement. Here to tell us about the findings is Marcy Keckler. Marcy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tina. My pleasure to be here.
Well, let's start with what was the goal of this retirement triggers study?
Well, our goal at Ameriprise was to understand how's this first wave of baby boomer retirees thinking about retirement. How did they decide to make the decision and pull the trigger to retire? And what was their experience like transitioning into retirement and living in the early years of retirement?
And so what were some of the findings? As I was kind of going over it this morning, it was actually quite positive.
Yeah, it is. It's quite positive. And I would say there are 4 key findings I'd love to share with you. I'd like to tell you about what we know about their stress level, the level of control they felt about retiring, their happiness, and their financial confidence. So talking about their stress level, what we learned from this group is that 2/3 of them said this was a somewhat stressful time for them. The decision making and the deciding is now the time. It did cause them stress, but the great news is they reported once they got into retirement that their stress level went down substantially. So that's great news for people who might be looking at their own retirement decision making coming up. A second important finding was that this group said they did feel like they were in control. They were in the driver's seat and they were able to retire on their own terms and when and how they wanted to. Only a very small percentage, less than 10%, said they had to retire, either because of a health event or because they had a job loss or maybe a early retirement from their employer. So most people made the decision to do it when and how they wanted to, and that really led to a third important finding, which is this first wave of baby boomers says they're confident and they're happy in their retirement period. 97% of them said they're satisfied with their lifestyle in retirement. And interestingly, they say they're having as much or more fun as they thought they would, and they also report having a little less free time. One of the factors there is that 40% of them say they're volunteering. So people are finding engaging ways to spend their time in retirement. And fourth and important finding is that this group reports feeling financially confident, at least for now. Now, they're all within their first 5 years of retirement, but half of them said they felt they had done a good job figuring out how much they needed to save for retirement and what they need to live on. About a quarter said that they might have saved more if they could go back in time. And the overall feeling of financial confidence, we know, is driven by the fact that for this first wave of baby boomers, about 70% of them are getting a more traditional retirement pension payment from their former employer, so kind of a traditional retirement pension. And that's certainly an income stream that they can count on that helps people feel secure. We don't expect that that same percentage will continue to be the case for subsequent waves of baby boomers. We do know pensions are becoming less prevalent, and the role of the 401k plan is certainly growing as it takes larger and larger prominence in our own individual retirement savings pictures.
And kind of speaking of those other baby boomers that will be going into retirement over the next couple of years, what can they kind of learn from this study?
There are a lot of things they can learn. I'd say 3 important lessons to think about. One is to know if you are feeling some stress about it, that's natural, and that is something that you can expect will diminish. So you'll get through it, but know that feeling some stress is natural and it'll go away. A second important lesson is that this first group of baby boomers told us they found some extensive resources to help them figure out the timing and details of their retirement. And there were great resources like the Social Security Administration and socialsecurity.gov, as well as Medicare. And the 2 most helpful resources that people turned to were their employer-sponsored retirement plan and their financial advisor. So a second important lesson is take advantage of the resources that are out there. And third and finally, in terms of lessons, this first wave of baby boomers told us that the emotional and social aspects of their retirement planning were just as important as the financial. And when we asked them what was hard about their transition into retirement, about a third of them said the hardest part was they missed their coworkers, their relationships with their colleagues from their workplace. And many of them said when we asked them, hey, if you had a do-over, if you could think differently or go back in time on your retirement, what might you change? One of the things they said they would change would be to have more of a plan for how they would spend their time, what activities and connections would they have that would keep them busy and satisfied and connected. So I think that third and important lesson is to make sure that you pay attention to both the financial and the emotional aspects of your retirement planning. When you put them together, that's the magical formula for a confident feeling in retirement.
Well, that's definitely a 3 easy lesson plan for us to take away from this. And Marcy, if we want to look at the full study or get some more information, where can we go?
You can find full details at ameriprise.com/retirement triggers.
That's perfect. Marcy, thank you again one more time for joining us this morning.
Thank you. My pleasure, Tina.
The Morning Blend, of course, we'll be right back.